before we get into the weeds, if you like. How highly do you rate Isak?
I think with the season that he had last season, you can battle with Haaland and the way he played last year and the way he played the year before, but I think he's up there with, if not the best striker in the league at the moment. And I think that's why people are upset at Newcastle, because you're about to lose, if not the best striker with Haaland, obviously, like I mentioned before, in the league. So it's kind of weird seeing it from afar. Myself, do I rate him? Yes, obviously I rate him. I think he's a great striker, what he can give you off and on the ball, the way he finishes also. But, you know, when you have a player in this type of situation at his club where he wants to leave, it's because he's good that people are getting upset. Because when a player is not good and a club wants him out, I don't see anyone crying for the player. So I can understand the fans and the club. I also can understand him. The only thing that I said, looking at everyone talking about it, you always put yourself in a situation as a player where people might not understand if you don't come to training. This is something that's very, very difficult for people to understand, but obviously they must have said something to him. Newcastle replied. You always hear that. You've had it before in your team.
She said at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Do we know the whole story? No, we will never know the whole story. All I say is that at one point you cannot put yourself in a situation when you don't come to train.
So how do you see this resolving itself? Do you think it can in the next week? Is there a situation where he stays at Newcastle and comes back and welcomed back into the squad?
I think for me, in an ideal world, the best thing for him is, I think for everybody, is if he can leave. But I also do believe that when someone makes a mistake, if it sees as a mistake after from his dressing room, if he apologizes, then we can move on. If he scores goals and he starts to play the same way he played last year, the Newcastle fans will be okay about it. The best for me right now, the way it is, and you dealt with that with Torres, because we talked about it before, is I think the best for Liverpool and Newcastle is if he goes. But I do think also if someone does apologise, if it's seen as a mistake because we don't know what has been said inside the camp, I will accept it if I was a player, but he needs to apologise if he wants to come back.
I'm not sure that Newcastle fans will agree with you, Thierry, that the best thing is
for
him to go. And
let's
have a look at some of the reasons why, because Eddie Howe, it seems, is desperate to keep him, and so are a lot of the Newcastle fans, despite what's happened. They are the Newcastle goals, the top scorers, since Isak made his debut, and look at his contribution to the cause. He's been such a big part of this success story, returning Newcastle to the Champions League, not just once, but twice, and delivering their first major trophy for 70 years as well. But what happens when he's not there? Well, it feels like there's a narrative building around this as well. The last 4 games, they've taken 2 points from without Isak. They haven't actually scored in those last 4 games. Just one this season, and that was the opening weekend goalless draw at Aston Villa. But even in that game, they had 16 shots, 47 overall, 11 of which were on target, and that XG creeping up almost towards 6. They might have been expected to score 6 goals. They haven't scored a single one. Is that why he is so highly prized by Newcastle United?
Not just highly prized by Newcastle, I think around the world and the league. This is why Liverpool are looking to break the bank for him, if you like. But I was speaking to Thierry before. I think Isak is seen as a better player than he actually is, because there's such a dearth of great strikers around the world and in the Premier League. I think if you went back to sort of Thierry's days, I think there would be 6 or 7 Isaks in the Premier League sort of playing, sort of for the top clubs. But at this moment, as I said, there aren't many top centre-forwards out there right now. Newcastle know that. They've tried to, sign so many. And for Liverpool, there's just one who they want. And I think that just tells you where we are with the central strikers in the world right now.
Come and have a look at these graphics, guys, because the other player that's linked to this story is Hugo Ekitike, a player that Newcastle United tried to sign and that Liverpool did. What's really interesting is when we look at Opta's striker profiling here, and these are their 2 profiles side by side, and Opta have taken the data from the last 10 years of football across Europe's 5 major leagues. And the one player that is closest to Ekitike in profiling in all of those, an 84% match, is Alexander Isak, which is pretty incredible. And this is, I suppose, showing us the data of an out-and-out striker. You'd expect the high XG, and should point out as well that the closer you are to the outer line, the closer you are to the elite. So high XG for both. High concentration of shots and touches in the opposition box. Where they feature less, both, is around winning aerial balls and winning the ball back from the opposition as well, but both doing well in terms of progressive carries. Neither gets involved too much in build-ups, as you can see. It's quite incredible, isn't it? It's like a mirror looking at these two, but they do also create chances, the both of them. Is a bit of the problem for Newcastle United is that maybe they might have been thinking on the lines, we might have to sell Isak if the price is right. We'll get this guy who is such a close match to him, but then Liverpool got him.
Yeah. And that's why I think Newcastle initially, I think in the back of the mind with the discussions that they've been having with Isak, it seems maybe for the last sort of 6 or 7 months, thinking there's a good chance he might go next summer. How can we replicate what he gives us? He's the carbon copy. Newcastle going for Ekitike. Liverpool right on the phone. If you're going for him, does that mean you're selling Isak? No, we're not. Maybe that's a bargaining position from Newcastle initially, a month or so, 6 weeks ago. So Liverpool go for the next best thing in terms of, the stats, the data. We know Liverpool like to use that. So Liverpool get him, but still Liverpool wants Alexander Isak. And I just can't help think and think back to those days, probably 6 weeks ago, when you think, I think the world would be a lot calmer, or certainly it would be probably a lot less ferocious in St James's Park tonight if Hugo Ekitike was playing for Newcastle, Alexander Isak was playing for Liverpool.
An 84% match according to the Opta profiling. I mentioned the Newcastle fan reaction as well, because this has a part to play in this. And we've teamed up with Fanalysis this season to help us gauge fan opinion of all 20 Premier League clubs. So we asked Newcastle fans the question here, would you like to see Isak play for Newcastle again? Pretty split, Thierry, I think you'd have to say. Yes, 58% would welcome him back. But it feels like he's also burnt some bridges as well. 42% saying they don't want to see him play for Newcastle again. What about Liverpool fans? We've asked them as well. You'd be less surprised probably with this. Do you want to see Liverpool sign Alexander Isak? And 87% say absolutely yes. I suppose when we've compared the profiling, Thierry, if Liverpool fans want Isak, would you go as far to say they actually need Alexander Isak this season?
Yes, it's a different need of a team that maybe plays at the bottom or in the middle of the table. It's because if you play in all competition, you need to have two very good strikers. One that's coming up, which is Hugo Ekitike, and if you manage to get Isak, you can get one of the best striker in your league. But I go back to the Man United treble, and I know I go back to tactic, obviously 4-4-2, and not a lot of teams that play with two strikers. But you had York and Cole and Sheringham and Solskjaer on the bench. What is it? I don't think that it will be crazy if you have an outstanding striker and a very good one also on the bench. 1-for-1. Do you understand what I mean? It's just for me, if you want to play in all competition, if you look at the squad that we had at Barcelona, the squad that won Champions League recently, look at the front three and look at what's on the bench also. So I do think it's a need if you want to perform in all the competitions.
The problem for Newcastle United right now is they don't have a single available centre forward. The reports this afternoon that Jurgen Strand-Larsen from Wolves is their big target, and Wolves have rejected a £50 million bid from Newcastle. They're saying he is going nowhere because it's too late to find a replacement. With all that in mind, Jamie, does it feel more and more unlikely that Isak will be going anywhere?
I'm not sure. I still think it's a toss of a coin. And
do you think the timing of this game was significant too?
Yeah, I don't think a deal was ever going to get done before this game. I couldn't see that. It'll be interesting what happens in the next few days. For me, I can't believe that Liverpool, it's just Isak or no one, but it does feel like that the closer we are getting to the end of the window. Now, Thierry just said that it's almost like a must for Liverpool to sign Isak. I've never been of that opinion. So I'm one of the sort of few Liverpool fans who are probably not all in on has to be Isak, we have to spend this money. And I've mentioned those reasons why I don't think he's as durable as maybe a Mo Salah. Actually, in the last 3 seasons, he's missed 36 league games. It's almost a season out of 3 seasons he's been at Newcastle. But what I'm going to say is now, this is not because I'm thinking I want Isak at Liverpool. I think Newcastle should sell Isak. And the reason I say that is because there'll be so many people outside of Newcastle telling Newcastle and Eddie Howe what they have to do. You've got to be strong. You've got to show that Liverpool or any other club. You've got to show in the future that players can't just come in and demand to go. But they don't have the problem of Isak every day. They don't have the problem Eddie Howe has of every press conference going in there and getting asked questions about it. It's a cloud over the club constantly. And the reason I say it, because I've got experience of it. We had this with Fernando Torres at Liverpool, where he didn't really want to be at the club. He ended up staying, and we got rid of him, not got rid of him, but we sold him in the January. That 4 or 5 months was a nightmare for the club, and everybody at the club couldn't wait for him to move on. The reason being is, and it's similar to Newcastle, Newcastle as a club are here, delighted to be in the Champions League. Isak is a player who wants to win the Champions League.
Newcastle want to get there as well, don't they?
But they're not there now. And he's 25, 26. The point I'm making again is when we were going for the Champions League at Liverpool, we had some world-class players. As soon as our level dropped, people like Torres, world-class player, Mascherano, world-class player, Xavi Alonso, world-class player, wanted to leave because there's too much of a gap between where they are as players and where the club are. So it's not me just sort of having a go at Newcastle and wanting their player to come to Liverpool. I've got experience of that situation. And when you've got a player who doesn't want to be there, it can be an absolute nightmare.